were reacting to a video by Legendary Drops. They didn't think you would notice.
Please tell me that you guys understand where I'm coming from with
I didn't get the notice. Did you?
this. I am sick and tired of the video game industry so desperately and so pathetically trying to be like Hollywood. Oh, do they want to be a part of that crowd? And everybody can see it at this point. I think that anybody with eyeballs can look at any AAA game in the industry and say, yeah, that's exactly what's going on. They can pretend like that's not what's happening. I got eyeballs. They can say that's not what's happening, but we can all see it. Constantly following the exact same themes, using the same casting habits, bringing in these prestigious voice casts that just so happen to be filled with Hollywood voice actors, modernizing old stories and characters so that they can fit a modern audience that everybody seemingly doesn't believe actually exists. Theater kid level writing and self-insert, setting hundreds of millions of dollars on fire to be able to make these games look that much more cinematic and much more realistic. And all it's done is led to games feeling more cheap than they ever have while costing more than they ever have. And
I played Call of Duty 7, the story mode, and yeah, it looks like a lot more resources were used to make that production.
That's the conundrum. That's the problem that I'm having right now. That's the core.
Another word that tickles my pickle. Conundrum. Oh, what a conundrum. Conundrum.
Issue here because
sorry.
Where did it all go wrong? How did it go?
That might be my.
How did an industry that
my favorite word
absolutely farmed us
conundrum
now lack the ability to be able to make a profitable or popular game anymore? Half of these guys are just a joke. And then it dawned on me. They are desperate for the approval of an industry that doesn't even think they exist.
Yo, it's gonna have to fall into like, yo, we gotta make the massive amount of money or passion, right? Just passionate about the game that you're creating, whether it's niche, whether it's not. It's gonna fall under that. But then guess what? To survive, the company needs what? There you go. Just give me my money. All right.
Not even on their radar. Meanwhile, they're making games, they're making products for an audience that doesn't even want it. And in trying to follow Hollywood's footsteps, they haven't taken the time to realize that the amount of time that it takes to make a game.
Yeah, so Hollywood, I mean, I'm assuming it's just like all about the bills, right? The dollar bills. Obviously. Why would they not be about the dollar bills? If not, they would have been like a YouTuber or something. Okay. Never mind.
Is what's making their results so much worse. So today, I want to talk about the games industry's obsession with Hollywood. How chasing a failing industry also then leads to failure, and how in mimicking Hollywood's formula, they haven't realized that time matters more than it ever has. And these guys are running out.
Okay.
I make every guy.
I don't think I fully understood how deep the obsession with Hollywood had gotten until I had seen the reveal.
Mortal Kombat. Oh, no, never mind.
For God of War Lawfare. Now, I already had a lot of.
They're femaling God of War. I'm in.
With what they had shown, you guys already know most of that. The painfully millennial ironic writing, the spin-off into a female lead, the cast filled with Hollywood voice actors. All of it just felt like the exact same direction modern Hollywood has been taking their franchise.
God of War. Just give me my money. All right.
For years. But the thing
God of War has money.
Was seeing Jack Quaid wearing this stupid.
I didn't like physically individually see their like bank account. But yeah.
PVC pipe botch while doing motion capture for a fucking cube. While the chick who's playing the ribbons on a sword stood there holding a little box on a stick. And I just sat there thinking, why is this necessary? Why are these people even here? This is all just so damn wasteful. They are probably spending tens of thousands of dollars an hour on those.
So they're trying to be, their movements gonna be captured, so they want to make it as realistic in the game as possible. So they just give them this, "Bleh, hey, yo, this is this pretend this is real. You're gonna be in the game, and there's something gonna be there. So just act around that." I mean, yeah, you could have just gave them a ball. I don't know.
Actors, the set, the staff, and all the equipment that's surrounding them. Then I ended up finding this interview with Games Radar.
Oh my God, it is Hollywood.
Where the director Ariel Lawrence explained that while the box helped them properly space out their scenes, it was not actually required. Apparently, it was just a lot of fun. That is just so self-indulgent. None of this is necessary.
Wait, no, he didn't put a.
And that is apparently it was just a lot of fun.
He didn't put he didn't put a sound in it. So let me help him. Legendary drops. I got you, bud.
And that is just so self-indulgent. None of this is necessary. They have the money to spend, so why not spend it? It gives them more time with the actors, brings them closer to the Hollywood production process, and it validates their desire.
This is God of War? Wait, this is gameplay? It's out already?
To feel like they're directing a movie rather than making a
what
video
does she look
game,
like?
Which
the main
that's
character.
Already a problem in and of itself. This industry is not spending all of this money because the game itself demands it or that the players need it.
Sorry. Does somebody voice Kratos in God of War? Kratos, right? I'm just gonna call him God of War. That looks like him. Bautista? No. Okay.
They're spending this money because playing Hollywood makes them feel important. And I think that need to feel important comes from an insecurity that this games industry has carried for a very long time.
Okay.
Back in 2012, Roger Ebert
let's just keep going.
Published an article titled "Video Games Can Never Be Art." It was written in response to a TED Talk from Kelly Santiago, who argued that
I'm about to skip this part. Video games can never be art. Well, let's look it up. Art is an expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, typically in a visual form.
Video games had already crossed the line into artistic expression. Ebert disagreed. His position was that video games cannot be art because they fundamentally have the structure of a game, which makes art impossible. Video games have goals, art does not. That was his entire point. Now, he was wrong, of course. And I mean, in my eyes, I think that video games are like the pinnacle of art, crystallizing the essence of nearly every single medium into one experience: painting, drawing, acting, music, writing, everything. Beyond that, his entire argument, he had barely even played any games himself. The industry, and honestly, anybody.
I accidentally stopped recording for some reason, so I'm an idiot. I was gonna say they should add sirens to ships in games. Yes, because it's stupid. All right, never mind. Keep going.
In their right mind should have just rejected all of this. It was a film critic talking about an industry that he's not involved in and a medium that he has no experience with. But instead, that article had set off years of arguments, responses, lectures, all kinds of different things coming from developers and critics that were desperate to prove that video games deserve to stand beside Hollywood. But the one thing in his article that ended up being right and ended up coming true was right at the end, where he said, do they require validation in defending gaming against parents, spouses, children, partners, coworkers, or other critics? Do they want to be able to look up from the screen and explain, I am studying a great form of art? Then let them say it if it makes them happy. This guy was an asshole, but he was absolutely right. They did require validation. And the craziest part is that these guys are chasing validation.
Art.
From an industry that people like me have almost completely stopped caring about. I don't know about you guys, but I flat out just do not watch much of anything coming out of Hollywood anymore. The only television I watch is anime that I want to keep up with, old favorites like Battlestar Galactica, Fringe, and Supernatural, and that's about it. For movies, man, the last time that I went to the theater was to go see the extended Lord of the Rings anniversary run. Before that, I think I saw Project Hail Mary on a
extended? The Lord of the Rings it's already like a 3-hour long movie. Extent. All right, whatever, bro. It was a good. I like Lord of the Rings.
Which was great, by the way, but before that, it'd probably been 8 years or more. I like campy science fiction, dude bro comedies, low substance action movies, and high fantasy where it feels like I am the target audience. But over the last decade, Hollywood has deliberately moved away from guys like me in favor of re-releasing the same properties.
Guys like me that don't want
or virtue signaling for the sake of vanity. Everything has to rewrite old narratives, criticize how things are written or cast in the past, or inject modern social politics into it. That might appeal to some people, but for me, I'm just going to tell you guys, it just does absolutely nothing for me. And video games have been following that exact same trend. They've increasingly moved away from guys like me, taking a socially safer approach to most games that they put out. They've bent over backwards to try not to offend anybody. They've softened their language, limited their gameplay, put more female leads into historically male roles, and somehow have allowed the writing to get worse through all of it. Now, I think this is where some of our opinions might diverge a little bit. You guys are welcome to have your own opinions, but I think a lot
of... Okay. That's a big piece of wood. Depending on the wood, it is some wood is heavier than others. And if it's not, that's like art. That's the length of my arm span, bro. That's either tiki wood and it's gonna break at the first pick a door scene, or that guy was Superman.
I think this is where some of our opinions might diverge a little bit. Look, you guys are welcome to have your own opinions, but I think a lot of people have treated this like it was the natural result.
Can we like take resources away from like becoming Hollywood and get the the weight of an object correct? All right. Or like the physique. This guy all right. Not gonna say
result of changing social trends, politics, and investor influence. But
I've come to
realize that I don't think it's as shadowy or nefarious as a lot of people make it sound, because I think it's a lot more intentional. Because these changes are going far beyond just the character.
Sorry, legendary drops. Look at the size of that log.
I think it's a lot more intentional. Because these changes are going far.
What the He just that's either flimsy that's gonna break the first kick, or I don't know, bro. Gotta put. Oh my god, you gotta put some acting into it, bro. Oh my god, legendary drops. This is wrong.
Far beyond just the characters and tone, it's the games themselves that have changed. It's the entire industry that's surrounding
There you go.
AAA games have become increasingly more Hollywood coded across the board. More Hollywood actors being cast as video game characters. More video game adaptations in movies and television. The industry now has dozens of award shows that have almost nothing to do with the audience, and they're increasingly just feeling like exercises in self-congratulation. You have the Game Awards, DICE, BAFTA, the Golden Joysticks, and about a dozen more on top of that. And at the same time,
it was like when PlayStation, the Game Awards was there was an award ceremony, like backed by PlayStation, and then Astro Boy, won best game. Yeah.
These studios are pushing harder into fidelity and realism. Writing has become more self-serious and dramatic rather than immersive. Gameplay is taking a back seat, and the entire industry is becoming more expensive, more disconnected from its audience, and honestly, just a lot more self-indulgent. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying that games should never be cinematic or that Hollywood actors automatically make them worse. Hell, some of the best voice actors in the industry have been Hollywood actors in some cases. Video games have borrowed from movies for decades. Metal Gear Solid, Mass Effect, Red Dead Redemption, and plenty of other games are deeply cinematic, but they still understood
what's going on,
that they were just video games. The cinematics serve the experience. The story served the experience. Increasingly, it feels like gameplay is what developers are reluctantly building between the scenes that they actually care about. I think you can see this most clearly with their obsession with hyperrealism. Studios spending hundreds of millions of dollars scanning actors, capturing every movement, animating every facial twitch, and recreating reality down to the pores on someone's face, only for those games to look almost...
That looks almost realistic. Legendary drops. I feel like we're like finishing each other's sentences.
exactly like every other AAA game that is chasing the exact same thing. Hyperrealism has become the most expensive way possible to look like everyone else because nearly every AAA studio is doing this now. The only real visual distinction between any of these games in this era.
You see? That's light. That object. Give me 1 second. Wrong button. That object looks light because the way she's holding it. It's not right. The wood was a ship long. He just picked it up like this. What?
Anymore is where they're taking place in, or
it's
the personal politics of the studio behind them. Western developers are purposefully making women less attractive and more masculine, and Eastern developers are leaning further into beauty and aesthetics. And every step closer to reality requires more people, more specialized roles, more advanced technology, more equipment, and more time. It's why we have watched studios balloon in size to hundreds or even thousands of developers at this point. It's making the games more expensive, but it's not automatically making them more memorable or more immersive or more fun in most cases. Meanwhile, the games with the strongest art direction, many of them being indie games, can remain.
Yo, chat, if you see this right now, will you think it's real? Or not? Real or cake? The way they react, I'm gonna base my answer based on that. All right, never mind.
Recognizable and distinct for decades without ever trying to recreate a real world.
If it gets soggy, it's cake. If it punches me in the mouth, it's real.
Notice how those games are the ones that are succeeding the most right now. With every single release, these Hollywood actors, full performance capture, photorealistic graphics, and hours of movie-quality cinematics, the industry is not just borrowing Hollywood's creative habits anymore. They're adopting Hollywood's cost.
I feel like all consoles are just trying to get to where a PC is, based on graphics and also like power. And they will eventually get there, but then PC is gonna like get abolished by like a AI implant in your brain. So yeah, I don't know.
Structures. The difference is that Hollywood can make a movie in a year or two.
And Nintendo Switch, you're like eons behind, but like your games are good, are cool. All right.
Video games take 7 or 8.
Graphics wise.
If you guys are wondering where some of this money has been going, why triple
on a big screen. Okay. Nintendo Switch is 4K now on TV. Okay, whatever, bro. I'm going on a tangent.
AAA games now on average cost over $300 million to make. This is why. This is now on average cost.
Hold on. I need a.
Cost over $300 million to make. This is why. This is where it's coming from. It's.
I can't spit. I'm in an office now.
It's wastefulness, rules. It's gluttony, it's self-indulgence.
Gluttony.
Some of that stuff is fine. I think that the act of making a game should be fun. These people should be able to enjoy it at least a little bit and have a bit of freedom when it comes to it. In a lot of cases, these guys are taking advantage of these companies. They're taking them to the bank. They're treating that check like it's blank, and they are using it to fund their fantasy of playing Hollywood. That's what's been going on with some of these guys. They're not even paying attention to trying to actually make a video game in some cases. Like, how do these companies not realize how much of a...
How is GTA 6 not out already? They just tickling our... Let's keep it family friendly. They're just... Okay.
Problem it is, when you have a director for one of your games that's going out talking about how it's not even necessary for them to have 3 Hollywood actors in a motion capture set that costs God knows how much, those actors who cost God knows how much, doing motion capture with a team that costs God knows how much, and they're doing motion capture for a cube and a ribbon. It's so wasteful, especially for a spinoff. This isn't even a mainline title. You know, recently I had read this article that was talking about how expensive games have been made over the last few years, like how much more expensive games are today. And one of the reasons that they had brought up is that the biggest difference between today and how games were made in the past is that there are so many more specialized roles than there have ever been. And that's one of the targets for a lot of the layoffs that we have seen recently.
Director, director-in-chief, director in the bench, director for the bathroom, director for the camera, director to move the camera, 1 tilt angled, 3 degrees. Should I keep going?
Recently. It's not a bunch of guys that are wearing a bunch of different hats that can do a bunch of different things. No,
it's just wasteful. Okay.
Instead, something as simple as just creating a character for a game now requires you to have a creative director, and then you have to have a concept artist, and then you need a VFX artist and a 3D modeler, and then you need somebody to rig that model. Then you need an engineer to be able to put it in the game, and then you need a voice actor. But if that voice actor is going to be doing motion capture, now there's entirely different teams that are going to be attached to that, and you have just this ever-growing mountain of people. Go ahead and throw some consultancy agency on there for sensitivity and diversity, and the next thing that you know,
lawyers. Okay.
Well, you have this massive mountain of people that a single idea
they're pay as you go, right?
Needs to go through, and all of those people are getting paid all the way down.
W lawyers over there. Don't sue me. Okay.
All of this is not only adding
to
how much
not worth
these
it.
games cost to make, but it's also adding into how long these games take to make. And, you know, rewind the clock 15 years ago, games were only taking about a year or two to be able to release. Now that kind of timeline is basically reserved for AA games and live service games. AAA, no chance. These games are going to take
AAA is Hollywood already.
Way too long to make. And I don't think that these guys
GTA. Oh my God, that's like a quadruple A, bro.
Guys have come to realize yet that expense is definitely killing.
I'm sorry. GTA could literally like blue ball everybody for like 5 more years, and we'll still be playing GTA, whatever GTA, until it comes out. GTA San Andreas. What GTA do you like best? Let me know in the comments.
These companies, but the thing that's really ruining them right now is time, because time waits for no one.
Yeah,
and it's definitely not waiting for these games.
Look,
I don't know about you guys, but I have been completely locked into Pal World. I just cannot peel my.
Is the video ended, or this is another segment? Or it's another area? This is another segment, I guess. We just lost 3 seconds. Okay.
Myself away from this game, and after watching it reach absurd levels of success twice,
I gotta play Pal World.
I started to reflect on what makes this game different. The game
I think I
is
can make
not
content
even a live
out of this.
service, yet it is averaging over like 800,000 players during the week, and it's honestly insane. This is the kind of success that every AAA publisher wishes it could find. These are numbers that
this is like rated R Pokemon, right?
Only to release those games and have them fall flat on their faces. So I kept thinking
they could actually die.
Pal World is doing that the wider industry is not right now. And one of the biggest things that I kept coming back to is that this game only took 3 years to develop. That used to be normal. Through the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, a game could take a year or less to make. As 3D graphics came into the picture, well, it got a little bit more complicated, and development roles expanded. That then grew to 2 or 3 years of production. Studios then placed more emphasis on cinematic quality.
Like, is that Ghastly? The Nice Girl style?
Wider scopes and larger narratives in AAA development expanded to emphasis on cinematic quality. Wider scopes and larger narratives in AAA development expanded to 4, 5, 6, 7 years at this point. Much of that additional time was not necessarily spent on making the gameplay better, but instead making it look more expensive. Now, speed isn't everything.
I really want to play
a game in a day if you wanted to. That doesn't mean that game's going to be any good, but speed does matter when it comes to relevance. Pal World burst onto the scene in 2024 after roughly a year in development, and then, while it was still fresh in people's minds and the audience was
Pokemon
still waiting for it, the game then dropped its 1.0 full release 2 years later, and it exploded. If they waited a little bit longer, or maybe another couple of years, who knows how big that audience actually would have been. But I actually still think that game would have been fine, because I think there's another kind of relevance that matters even more, and that's cultural relevance. Pal World probably could have released at any point they wanted to, because Pokemon is seemingly immortal. It has always been near the top of the charts. It has an active global fan base that has embedded itself into popular culture for decades now.
Or they could have waited for like Pokemon to release something big and then be like, boom, Pal World, Pokemon here, come get it.
Collecting itself is kind of a timeless concept. Pal World, by extension, is kind of a timeless concept. The same cannot be said for many of the trends that AAA games are chasing, especially the trends that they're borrowing from Hollywood. What was the last time that you watched a timeless movie that came out of Hollywood? Oppenheimer, maybe? And
those Pokemon bring out new Pokemon every year? Let me know. I have no clue. But like, or is it every time they drop a new like set of cards?
Was there even one before that?
Is it?
Many of people's favorite movies are the timeless classics, the original Star Wars trilogy, Titanic, Jurassic Park, the original Disney animated films, Lord of the Rings. They were not completely built around what was happening in the year that they were made. They were self-contained creative works with themes, characters, and worlds that could outlive the culture that was surrounding them, because they weren't about the culture that was surrounding them. We don't see nearly as much of that coming from Hollywood anymore, because they have become obsessed with current social norms, internet discourse, and whatever the current cultural conversation is that's happening at that exact moment. The problem is that modern internet culture has now made this even worse, because they pick up and abandon trends within a week or even sometimes days. Anything that's going to be built around culture today is going to have an expiration date, and that expiration date is getting shorter every single year.
That's like the shake weight,
and television shows can't still be successful. They absolutely can.
Yes, like,
I think we all can see that, but they benefit from having a much faster turnaround. A movie that begins production in 2020 that releases in 2022 can still feel relatively connected to the culture that produced it. But a video game that
you go swim. Oh my God. They're doing everything Pokemon isn't doing while still attaining the Pokemon element. Wow.
Begins production in 2020 and releases in 2026 or 2027 can feel like it came from an entirely different planet. I think this is one of the biggest
So it's kind of like Horizons and Pokemon. What?
Reasons that we have been seeing so many games struggling so much culturally. It's why we are seeing so much backlash over character designs, how stories are written, and the overbearing use of divisive social politics. Many of the games that have been released over the last 2 years began their concept phases and development phases somewhere between 2018 and 2020, and that was a completely different cultural reality. At that time, people were much more willing to tolerate a lot of this stuff here and there. Maybe they just rolled their eyes and moved on, but the reaction usually just ended there. Today, interests, tastes, and culture have changed completely, and more importantly, people have become far more tribal and openly hostile towards anything that's associated with the other side. A few years ago, a game could replace male and female characters with body type A and B and gender swap a character or rewrite an old role, and most people would barely even react. Today, that exact same decision is going to get your trailer downvoted into oblivion, and the game having no audience there to show up when that game actually releases. These studios are not necessarily making games for the culture that exists today. They are releasing games based on culture that they would believe that would still be here 6 or 7 years ago. This is why multiplayer games have honestly probably been hit the hardest. They are far more vulnerable to the changing of trends and also to trends just changing faster in the industry than they can actually develop around them. And I think this extends far beyond just
this game. You're riding a horse and you have an AR. Let's make it make sense.
Politics and opinions and tastes and everything else.
You need a Lamborghini.
It's actually affecting the games themselves. Look at the endless trend chasing around battle royales, hero shooters, and extraction games, or the flood of terminally millennial Marvel dialogue.
I'm sorry for pausing legendary drops. I want a game. just like watching gaming.
These games were approved at a time where those ideas probably made sense to a lot of people, but then they
What is
released
that?
years later when people
Mini
were already
Joker.
tired of them. Just look at the wave of hero shooters that came out in the last 2 years. Almost all
Hero
of them
shooters.
failed outside of Marvel Rivals, and I think a major reason for that is simply because they took too long.
Nobody was attached to those games, and it's brand new. It's like people are not. There's so much stuff going on in people's lives that if you're not a game head or you're just like wandering the internet and be like, oh, what is this? Let me click on it. I'm bored. Then it's not gonna be massive. Marvel Rivals has a massive fan base just because of comics and all that.
To make. By the time that they arrived, tastes had already shifted and the audience had already moved on. Marvel Rivals only succeeded because it didn't follow every trend that the industry was chasing. At least in my eyes, I think it rejected the obsession with safe character designs and leaned way more into making their cast attractive, and that made them feel far more culturally relevant at the time because that's what people actually really wanted in that moment, while also helping us to stand apart from everything else that's coming out of AAA. And I think all of this becomes so much more worse when these companies try to do this inside of existing franchises. When you have your own IP, you're free to do whatever you want. You can build characters, worlds, and an audience around the culture that you're chasing, and people could decide whether they're interested. But when you take something that already existed and you reshape it to trends from 6 years ago, you're forcing ideas onto an audience that already has expectations for what that series is supposed to be. Look at what's going on with the Odyssey right now. This is something that also happens in Hollywood. This is why
New game,
these
right?
changes create so much backlash. This is what's really pissing off a lot of people. They are using the popularity of an older franchise
Odyssey
to sell something designed for an audience that they assumed would exist years later. By the time that
I don't care if they remake Paragon into like a Hollywood fix or whatever. Bro, bring back Paragon. What?
game releases, that predicted audience may have disappeared by that
Paragon.
point, while the original audience is still sitting there wondering why everything they like
I'm pretty
has
sure it'll be
changed
back.
to attract people that never even showed up. Now, something that I find really funny, and I think a lot of you guys are probably going to agree with me on this, is that I think a lot of people in the games industry desperately wish that they were Hideo Kojima. I mean, Death Stranding has everything that I have criticized throughout this entire video. It has Hollywood actors, full performance capture, hours of cinematics, expensive production. Hell, they even have a bunch of license.
I'm pretty sure it's a good game. Just on quality assurance. And I'm pretty sure they had to advertise it way more. They had to, because all those resources, like all the Hollywood stuff, acting, actors, voice actors, whatever. They had to put in more ad rev. I mean, they had to put more ad money into it. Just because like they're not gonna let this fail. They can't let it fail. Right?
Music in it, and they definitely have a director who.
So then they spend all that money in all those resources creating quality, and then they had to spend more on distributing it,
who clearly loves movies and television and sees himself as,
which makes sense, but it's kind of a risk, right?
A director. Kojima puts
Good thing it was a good
into
game?
the game just because he wants to meet them. He
Let me know
scans
in the
directors
comments.
into their world as holograms.
Who played Death Stranding?
This man is probably the most self-indulgent developer alive.
He has a bazooka in his back, bro, and he's sprinting. What?
But Kojima understands something that the rest of the industry fundamentally does not. All of this serves an idea that is completely his own. Death Stranding was not an old franchise that's being rewritten around whatever Hollywood is doing at the time. It was an IP that was distinct. It had its own distinct world. It has bizarre mechanics and an experience that only would work inside of a video game. You spend hours walking.
Just imagine how long this takes. Just that scene where you saw the movement slow down, all these graphics on the visuals. Just imagine how long that takes.
Across mountains, balancing packages, building infrastructure, and forming connections with people that you may never actually.
Please tell me he transforms like a transformer to a mecha cannon. I don't know.
Meet. The actors help bring that world to life, but the entire game is not built around just showing off those actors. These studios copy the surface level parts of Kojima. They hire the recognizable celebrities. They build out these enormous motion capture studios. They create long cinematic scenes, and they take themselves very, very seriously. But they leave out the creative risk, the mechanical experimentation, the willingness to make something that may only appeal to a very specific group of people. They want the prestige without doing the thing that earned him the prestige. And I love Death Stranding, by the way. It's one of my favorite games. I think it's absolutely fantastic, and it's definitely self-indulgent to say.
It's like doomed if you don't, damned if you do. Like if you want to play like a Hollywood game, let gamers be gamers,
to say the least. But at the same time, it's a game that offers an experience that you just can't find anywhere else. It does so many weird and different things.
That makes sense.
It's so distinct in its world and what it's trying to do, and none of it feels like it has anything to do with current day. Ironically, by trying to be big and cinematic and ultra Hollywood, Kojima, being the guy that he is, actually made something that was timeless and distinct, which kind of loops me back around to Power World in a way, because Power World didn't take 8 years trying to figure out what they were going to be able to make in the current culture that they were making it in. No, they took a timeless concept, iterated on it, and then released it to an audience that they knew would already be there no matter what, regardless of when those guys released that game. And that's why it's so popular. That's why it worked out for them. And that's what I think a lot of these guys have kind of just lost sight of over time. They've gotten so obsessed with Hollywood, so obsessed with trying to make video games into movies, that they forget about what made games timeless. At one point in time, I wanted to make a video where I was going to talk about timeless games and like what makes games timeless in some cases, like an Ocarina of Time or a Metal Gear Solid, or Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy X, the original
Twisted Metal Black. All right, never mind. You don't know? All right, youngin. Let's keep going.
The ones, there's a ton. There's a huge list. Super Mario Brothers, right?
All right. We're gonna call it right here. Yeah. Let me know you like this video. Let me know you want more videos like this. Don't forget to follow, and yeah. See you guys next time.